The great hall of the alien palace was silent as the human traveler stepped inside. His name was Aaron. He had walked through long corridors filled with strange symbols and tall doors carved from crystal stone. The air was heavy, carrying a faint hum as if the walls themselves were alive. The guards at the door had not stopped him. They had only stared with their large silver eyes, their faces unreadable, and let him pass. Aaron kept walking forward. His boots touched the smooth floor that glowed faintly with each step, like a living pathway. He felt the weight of many eyes on him. Dozens of alien figures lined the walls, tall and slender, their skin marked with colors that shifted like liquid. They whispered among themselves, their voices soft but tense, as if wondering why a human had come here at all. At the far end of the hall sat the throne, carved from a single dark stone that rose like a mountain. Upon it sat the queen of this world. Her name was Cyril. She was larger than the others, her form strong but strange to human eyes. Her limbs were long, her features sharp, her crown grown from her own body in curved spines that shimmered in the dim light. Many would have called her frightening. Many of her own people already had. Yet Aaron did not slow his steps. He walked until he stood at the base of the throne, where the stairs rose high toward the queen. He looked up, his face calm, his eyes steady. Then he bowed low, the way he would bow before a leader of his own kind. The hall grew quiet. The aliens watched with unease. They expected him to flinch, to look away, to show fear or disgust at their queen's form. Instead, Aaron lifted his head and met her gaze. Cyril leaned forward slightly, her spines catching the glow of the hall. Her voice carried across the chamber, deep and resonant. "Human," she said, "why do you stand before me without fear? Do you not see what I am?" Aaron's lips curved into a small smile. "I see a queen," he answered. The words rippled through the court like a shock. Murmurs rose at once. The aliens exchanged glances, their eyes wide, as if he had spoken something impossible. No one in that hall had ever spoken to their queen in such a way. For years, they had whispered of her ugliness, her cursed appearance, her unfit form. Even as she ruled them, they looked at her with doubt. But this human spoke differently. Cyril's gaze sharpened. She leaned back on her throne and studied him. "A queen," she repeated slowly. "Is that what you see?" "Yes," Aaron said. His voice was steady, as if he stated a simple fact. "I see dignity in how you sit upon your throne. I see strength in how your people watch you. That is what I see." A faint, bitter laugh escaped Cyril. The sound was not cruel, but it carried years of weariness. "You are blind, human. Even my own people cannot look upon me without seeing ugliness. Why do you speak as if I am more than this shape?" Aaron's smile remained, but it was not mocking. It was calm, warm, and unshaken. "Because beauty is not only shape," he said. "It is not only what the eye sees. It is also what the spirit carries. And I see strength in you." The silence in the hall deepened. The courtiers shifted uneasily. Some frowned, some looked away, some whispered that the human was mad. Yet Cyril did not dismiss him. She did not order the guards to take him away. Instead, her eyes lingered on him, searching, as if she could not understand how he spoke so simply, without hesitation. "You speak as if you know me," she said at last. "Yet you do not. You are a stranger here." "Stranger, yes," Aaron agreed. "But not blind. I know what I see." His calm words unsettled the hall more than anger would have. The courtiers murmured louder, their voices overlapping. They could not grasp why a human, a visitor from a distant world, would see beauty where they had seen shame. Cyril raised one long hand and the hall grew silent again. Her eyes, bright and sharp, stayed fixed on Aaron. "You are either a fool or a liar," she said. "Yet you stand before me without trembling. Tell me, human. What do you seek in this place?" Aaron bowed his head slightly. "I seek truth," he said. "And I seek to understand." His answer surprised many, but Cyril only tilted her head, watching him with interest she had not felt in years. She had met many who came before her throne. Most praised her out of duty. Others avoided her eyes, ashamed or afraid. None had ever spoken to her with such plain honesty. For the first time in a long while, Cyril felt a small spark inside her chest, something she thought she had lost. She could not name it yet. The queen leaned back in her throne, her long fingers tapping the stone armrest. She did not dismiss him. She did not laugh again. Instead, she said softly, "Very well, human. If you wish to understand, you will remain here. You will see my court, my people, and my world. Then we will see if your words still hold true." Aaron bowed deeply once more. "I will," he said. The hall remained tense, filled with whispers and unspoken questions. But in the quiet that followed, something had shifted. The queen who had always been called ugly had heard a human call her beautiful in a way no one else dared. She did not believe it yet, not fully. But she remembered his calm eyes, his steady voice, and the way he had not looked away. And for the first time, she wondered if the curse of ugliness she carried was not truth but the shadow of others' judgment. As Aaron was led from the throne room to the chambers prepared for him, the queen sat alone on her throne, silent. She lifted one long hand and studied her own reflection in the polished stone beside her. The face that had always brought her shame stared back at her, sharp and strange. The morning after Aaron's first meeting with the alien queen, the palace stirred with quiet talk. Servants whispered as they carried trays of glowing fruit and silver pitchers of water. Guards spoke softly in the corners, their eyes shifting toward the chambers where the human rested. Few had ever seen a human before, and none had seen one walk so boldly into the presence of their queen. Aaron awoke to the soft hum of the palace walls. The chamber given to him was vast and filled with pale light that came not from windows but from veins of energy running through the stone. He washed his face in a basin that shimmered like liquid crystal, then stepped outside into a long corridor. Two guards waited there. They were tall and slender, their skin shifting in faint shades of blue and silver. Without speaking, they gestured for him to follow. Aaron nodded and walked between them, his step steady. He knew where they were leading him. The throne hall was quieter than the night before. Fewer courtiers stood along the walls, yet the space felt just as heavy. The queen sat upon her throne, her sharp crown of living spines glimmering in the dim light. Her eyes fixed on him the moment he entered. "Human," Cyril said, her voice deep and smooth. "Step forward." Aaron did as she commanded, stopping at the base of the stairs once more. He bowed low and lifted his head to meet her gaze. The queen leaned forward slightly. "You spoke bold words last night. My court still murmurs about them. Some call you reckless. Some think you seek to flatter me. Tell me now, before all is decided, why did you call me beautiful?" The question hung heavy in the air. The courtiers drew closer, eager to hear his reply. No one dared to speak of beauty in the queen's presence. To them, her form was a reminder of what they called flawed. For a human to say otherwise was almost an insult to their long-held belief. Aaron did not look away. His voice was calm, almost gentle. Because I see it. Not in your face alone, not in your crown or your skin. I see it in the way you carry yourself. Even as your people whisper, you hold your head high. Even as they question you, you sit upon your throne without bending. That strength is beauty. The words rippled through the court like a quiet storm. Some scoffed softly. Others frowned. A few lowered their eyes, unsure. Cyril's gaze sharpened. Strength is beauty, she repeated slowly. She studied his face as if searching for mockery, but found none. His eyes were steady, unshaken, and honest. The queen tilted her head, her spines catching the faint light. Do you not fear me, human? Do you not see me as your kind must see me, strange, twisted, wrong? I see you as you are, Aaron said. And I do not fear you. The chamber grew quiet again. For a moment, the queen did not speak. She lifted one long hand, her sharp fingers tapping against the stone of her throne. Her voice dropped lower, carrying a weight of years. Do you know, human, that even my own kind call me unworthy? That they name me cursed, that they hide their eyes in shame when I pass? For many seasons I have ruled, yet never once have I heard the word beautiful without laughter behind it. Her words carried no tears, only a deep weariness. The courtiers shifted uncomfortably but did not deny her claim. They had all spoken such words in secret. Aaron's expression did not change. Then perhaps they have forgotten how to see, he said softly. Perhaps they only see with eyes, not with truth. The queen's eyes widened slightly, then narrowed again, as if she could not decide whether to be angered or moved. Her voice grew sharper. And you, human stranger, you claim to see truth? You, who have walked in this palace for only a day. I claim to see what is before me, Aaron answered. I do not need more than that. The court stirred again, uneasy and restless. Yet Cyril did not dismiss him. Her gaze lingered, caught on the calm strength in his voice. At last, she leaned back in her throne. Her spines shifted slowly, folding like branches in a wind. You are bold, she said. Bolder than any who stand before me. Perhaps too bold. But I will allow you to remain. If you believe you see truth, then let us see if it survives what lies ahead. Aaron bowed his head. I will remain, he said. The queen motioned for the guards to step aside. Walk with me, she commanded. The courtiers gasped. No one walked with the queen outside of ritual, and never a stranger. But Cyril rose from her throne, her tall form casting a long shadow across the hall. Aaron followed without hesitation. They walked through a long corridor that opened into the palace gardens. Strange plants grew there, their leaves glowing faintly, their blossoms humming with soft sound. The air was warm and filled with the fragrance of unknown flowers. For a while, neither spoke. The queen walked tall, her steps steady, her crown catching the light of the strange sun above. Aaron kept pace beside her, silent but unafraid. At last, Cyril spoke again. Her voice was softer now, less like command and more like question. Human, you speak of beauty as if it is more than appearance. Tell me, what is it to your kind? What is it to you? Aaron looked at the blossoms around them, then at her. On my world, we once believed beauty was only in the face, the skin, the shape. Many were judged by it, many suffered because of it. But in time, we learned that beauty is also in courage, in kindness, in the way someone stands when others fall. That is what I believe. That is what I see in you. The queen stopped walking. She turned toward him, her eyes searching his face. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, almost in a whisper, she asked, "And if I tell you I am ugly?" Aaron met her gaze and smiled softly. "Then I will tell you that you are wrong." For the first time in years, the queen of this world felt her breath catch. She did not know if she believed him yet, but the warmth of his words lingered. She turned away, hiding her face from the watching servants among the gardens. "Come," she said firmly, though her voice carried a strange note beneath its strength. "There is more for you to see." The palace court had always been a place of order and tradition. Every word was weighed, every gesture measured, and every silence understood. But after the human spoke so boldly to the queen, the balance of that order began to tremble. When Aaron left the throne hall with Cyril the day before, whispers had filled every corner. Servants repeated his words in hushed tones as they poured water into crystal cups. Advisors leaned close to each other, their voices sharp as they argued about what the human truly meant. Some called him foolish, a wanderer blinded by ignorance. Others feared that his words were dangerous, for they struck at the roots of long-held belief. By the time the court gathered again the next morning, the tension had grown thick. The nobles stood in their places along the walls, their skin flickering with restless colors that betrayed their unease. Their queen sat upon her throne, tall and silent, her eyes distant as though her thoughts wandered beyond the hall. When Aaron entered once more, all eyes turned toward him. He walked calmly across the polished floor, as steady as he had before. No fear showed on his face, no doubt in his steps. This only unsettled the court further. "Human," one of the advisors spoke at last. His voice was sharp, his tone carrying both anger and disbelief. "You speak in ways that defy truth. You call what is flawed beautiful. Do you mean to mock us? Do you seek to insult our queen by pretending to see what cannot be seen?" Aaron turned his head toward the speaker, his expression calm. "I do not mock," he said. "And I do not pretend. I speak what I see." The advisor's colors flared dark with frustration. "Your eyes are blind, then. For no one here has ever spoken as you do." Aaron looked back toward Cyril, his voice steady. "Perhaps that is the problem. Perhaps no one has spoken it because no one dared." A murmur spread through the court, sharp as wind across stone. Some shook their heads, others frowned deeply, yet a few lowered their gaze as if unwilling to meet the queen's eyes. Cyril lifted her hand and silence fell. Her gaze moved slowly across the hall, touching every face. "You hear him," she said, her voice strong. "You hear the human speak what none of you have spoken. Do you call him liar? Do you call him blind? Or do you fear that his words hold truth you cannot bear?" The hall shifted uneasily. No one answered. The queen leaned forward, her crown of spines catching the faint light. "For many seasons you have whispered of me," she said. "You call me cursed, unfit, a shadow upon the throne. You do not think I hear, but I hear. Always I have heard. And now a stranger stands before me and calls me beautiful. You do not ask why you have always called me ugly. You only ask why he does not." Her words struck like a blade through silence. The courtiers stood frozen, their shifting colors dimming as shame pressed into them. Aaron bowed his head slightly. "It is not for me to judge your people," he said softly. "But I will not take back my words." The queen's gaze lingered on him, and something unreadable flickered in her eyes. Then she leaned back in her throne. "Enough," she said. "The court may speak no further of this today. Leave us." The nobles bowed low, their movements stiff with unease. One by one, they filed out of the hall, their voices low as they whispered among themselves. The great doors closed behind them, and the hall fell into quiet. Cyril sat still for a long moment. Then, slowly, she rose from her throne and stepped down the stairs. Her movements were graceful yet heavy with thought. She stopped before Aaron, towering above him, yet for the first time her posture carried no sense of command. "Human," she said, her voice lower now, almost gentle. "Do you understand what you have done? Your words have stirred my court. They will not forget them. They may not forgive them." Aaron looked up at her. "Truth does not need forgiveness," he said. "Only courage to be spoken." The queen studied him in silence. Her sharp eyes searched his face, seeking weakness, but finding none. She had seen lies in the eyes of many. She had seen fear, pity, even false praise. Yet in this human's gaze there was only quiet certainty. At last, she turned and began to walk. "Come," she said. "There is more I must show you." They left the hall and entered a long passage lit by soft lines of light running through the walls. The sound of their steps echoed faintly, filling the still air. The queen spoke as they walked, her voice thoughtful. "My people look at me and see ugliness. They cannot imagine their queen as beautiful. And perhaps they are right. Perhaps my form is not what should sit upon a throne." Aaron walked beside her, his stride steady. "Perhaps beauty is not the throne's gift," he said. "Perhaps it is the heart's." Cyril glanced at him, her expression unreadable. She did not answer at once. Instead, she led him through the corridor until they stepped into another vast chamber. This one was not of stone or crystal. It was filled with tall mirrors, each carved from polished metal. The room reflected her form 100 times, from every angle. This was the Hall of Reflection, a place where rulers of old once came to study themselves, to see their greatness or their flaws. Cyril stood still among the mirrors, her image stretching endlessly around her. Her voice was low. "Look at me, human. Look at what I am. How can you call this beautiful?" Aaron turned slowly, his gaze moving across the countless reflections. He saw her crown of spines, her sharp limbs, her towering form. He did not look away. At last, he spoke. "Because what I see is not weakness. What I see is not shame. What I see is a queen who carries her burden with strength. Others may see only the shape. I see the courage." The queen's eyes shifted toward her own reflection. For years she had looked upon these mirrors with hidden pain. She had seen ugliness echoed again and again, until it became truth in her mind. But standing beside the human, hearing his voice steady and sure, the reflection seemed to change, though her form had not. She did not speak. She only stood in silence, caught between doubt and a new, unfamiliar spark. At last, she turned and said, "Enough for today. Return to your chamber, human. Tomorrow, you will see more." Aaron bowed his head. "As you wish." As he left, Cyril remained in the hall of mirrors, staring at her countless reflections. For the first time, she wondered if perhaps they were not as ugly as she had always believed. The days in the alien palace passed slowly, yet each one carried something new. Since the first meeting, the queen had not dismissed the human. Instead, she called for him often, sometimes in the quiet of the throne hall, sometimes in the garden filled with glowing plants, and sometimes in the hall of reflection where mirrors stretched into eternity. The courtiers watched from a distance, unsettled by this strange closeness. Whispers ran through every corridor. They wondered why their queen, who once kept all at arm's length, now allowed a human to walk beside her. Some said she was testing him, others said she was being deceived, and a few feared she might truly believe his words. But Cyril herself remained quiet about her thoughts. Outwardly, she still wore the mask of strength, the posture of command. Yet when she walked with Aaron, her voice changed. The weight in her tone lessened, and something softer emerged, something long hidden beneath her crown of spines. One evening, they walked together in the palace gardens. The sky above glowed with two moons, one pale silver and the other faintly red. Strange insects floated through the air, their wings leaving trails of faint light as they moved. The garden hummed like a song, alive with sound and color. Cyril paused by a tall tree whose leaves shone like glass. She placed one long hand against its trunk, then spoke without looking at Aaron. "Do you wonder why I let you stay, human? Why I allow you to walk these halls when even my own council cannot stand so close?" Aaron looked at her calmly. "Because you wish to see if my words are true." The queen tilted her head slightly. "And what if they are not?" "Then I will leave," Aaron said simply. "But I will not take them back, for they are not false." Her sharp eyes studied him, searching again for trickery, yet finding only steady calm. At last, she turned back toward the glowing tree. "When I was young," she said quietly, "I believed the throne was a place of honor. I thought my people would look to me and see pride, see strength. But when I took the crown, I saw only their shame. They whispered that the throne deserved another. They called me cursed, though not to my face. And each day, as I sat upon that throne, their belief sank into me like stone." She drew in a slow breath. "For many years I ruled while hearing those whispers. At first, I told myself I was strong enough. But as the seasons passed, I began to believe them. I began to see myself as they saw me. Ugly. Wrong. A burden to my own people." Her voice grew quieter, and the hum of the garden filled the silence. Aaron listened without interrupting. When she finally turned her gaze toward him, he spoke. "On my world," Aaron said softly, "we had the same blindness. Long ago, humans judged worth by faces and forms. Those who did not fit were cast aside. Some were treated with cruelty, some with silence. But in time, we learned that strength and kindness are greater than shape. We learned that beauty can live in the spirit, even if the eye does not see it at first." The queen's eyes narrowed slightly, not with anger but with thought. "And your people changed?" "Truly. Not all at once," Aaron said. "It took pain, mistakes, and time. But yes. We learned. I learned. That is why I can look at you and see what your people have forgotten to see." Cyril turned away again, her gaze lifting to the red moon above. The light touched her spines, making them glow faintly like fire. "It is difficult to believe," she said, almost to herself. "For so long, the whispers have been my truth. To hear your words is like hearing water in a desert. Part of me wishes to drink, yet part of me fears it is only a mirage." Aaron stepped closer, careful but firm. "Then let the truth be tested. Not by what others say, but by what you do. Strength does not vanish because someone calls it ugly. Beauty does not fade because someone denies it. If you rule with courage, then courage is what you are. And that is beauty." The queen looked at him sharply, her eyes burning with a question she did not speak aloud. Instead, she studied his face, the human's plain features set in calm honesty. For a long moment, the garden seemed to pause around them, the humming of blossoms fading into quiet. At last, she spoke again, her voice steadier than before. "You speak as though you have carried such weight yourself. Tell me, human, is it so?" Aaron was silent for a moment. His gaze drifted to the glowing ground, then rose back to meet hers. "Yes," he said simply. "On my world, I was once called less than others. I was told I was weak, that I would never rise. For a time, I believed it. But then I chose to stand, even if alone. And in standing, I found strength that no words could take." Cyril's sharp eyes softened. For the first time, she saw not only a stranger speaking bold words but a soul that had known the weight of doubt and still carried itself with quiet power. "Perhaps," she said slowly, "that is why you speak as you do. Because you know what it is to live under the shadow of others' judgment." Aaron inclined his head. "Yes. That is why I can say with truth that you are not what they call you. You are more." The queen turned away once more, her tall figure outlined by the light of the two moons. She did not answer at once, but something inside her stirred, fragile yet steady. For years she had buried her doubt in silence, but now she found herself speaking of it to a human she had known only for days. She wondered why. Perhaps it was because his eyes did not flinch when they met hers. Perhaps it was because his voice carried no pity, only certainty. Or perhaps it was because, for the first time in her long reign, someone looked at her not with shame, not with fear, but with respect. The garden wind stirred, carrying the hum of blossoms once more. The queen drew in a slow breath, then spoke. "We will see if your truth holds, human. There are trials ahead. My people do not believe in me. My council doubts me. A storm is rising, and I must face it. If your words are real, then they will not break." Aaron nodded. "Then let the storm come. Truth does not fear storms." For a long moment, the queen held his gaze. Then, without another word, she turned and began walking back toward the palace. Aaron followed, his steps steady, the silence between them filled not with distance but with an unspoken understanding. The palace had grown restless. Whispers ran along the crystal halls like wind in a storm. The courtiers spoke not only of the humans' bold words now, but also of strange movements beyond their world. Messengers came and went in silence, their faces tight with worry, their steps heavy. Even the servants carried tension in their eyes. Something unseen pressed upon the palace like a dark cloud. Aaron noticed this change, though no one told him openly. The meals grew quieter, the guards sharper, and the air heavier. Yet he did not question at first. He waited, knowing the queen would tell him when the time was right. One night, she did. The great hall was empty when she called for him. The torches along the walls glowed faintly, throwing shadows that stretched like long fingers across the polished floor. Cyril sat not on her throne but at the foot of its stairs, her tall form bent slightly forward, her crown of spines glimmering softly. Aaron stepped inside, bowing as always. "You asked for me, my queen." Her eyes lifted to his, sharper than usual but also carrying something heavier. "Sit," she said simply. He obeyed, lowering himself onto the stone bench near her. For a moment, silence filled the space between them. Then Cyril's voice broke it, low and steady. "You have spoken to me of courage and beauty, human. You have told me strength is not shape but spirit. If that is true, then I must show you something. I must tell you why my people doubt me. Aaron listened closely. He could sense the weight in her words. There is a threat beyond these walls, Cyril continued. A rival species, the Varos, gather their fleets. They hunger for our land, for our rivers of light, for the power hidden in our mountains. For many seasons they have pressed against our borders. My council fears they will strike soon. My people look to me for guidance, yet they doubt that I can defend them. They say I am too weak, too cursed, too unworthy to lead in such times. Her voice hardened at the last words, though beneath it Aaron could hear pain long carried in silence. Aaron leaned forward slightly. And do you believe them? The queen's eyes flashed. I do not wish to. But their whispers echo in me. Each day, I sit upon that throne and see the doubt in their eyes. When the Varos come, will my people stand behind me? Or will they crumble because they cannot believe in the one who leads them? Her hands, sharp and elegant, curled into fists against the stone. The sight of it struck Aaron more than her words. He saw not only a ruler but a soul weighed by loneliness, by years of carrying doubt pressed into her by those who should have supported her. He spoke firmly, his voice clear in the hall. You are queen. That alone gives you strength, but more than that, you have not abandoned your people. Even when they call you cursed, you stay. That is not weakness. That is the greatest strength of all. Cyril's gaze turned on him, sharp as a blade. You say this, but you are not of my people. You do not hear their voices every day. You do not see their eyes turn from me. Tell me, human, why should I believe that I can stand when even they do not believe? Aaron held her gaze without flinching. Because belief begins with one. If you do not believe in yourself, no one else will. But if you do, your strength will spread. I have seen it on my own world. A single leader, even alone, can rise and carry many behind them. Her crown of spines caught the light as she tilted her head, studying him. And you think I can be such a leader? I know you can, Aaron said. I have seen it already. Even in doubt, you sit tall upon your throne. Even in fear, your voice carries power. If the Varos come, it is not your face that will decide the battle. It is your will. For a long moment, Cyril said nothing. The silence of the hall stretched, filled only by the faint hum of the palace walls. Then, slowly, her shoulders shifted. Not in weakness, but in thought. You speak as though you would stand beside me, she said softly. Aaron's answer came without hesitation. I would. The queen's eyes narrowed slightly, testing the truth in his words. Yet again, she found no hesitation in him, only calm resolve. She drew in a slow breath and released it. Then hear me, she said firmly. The Varos are not like my people. They are ruthless, born for conquest. Their fleets darken the skies. My council would sooner seek peace through surrender than face them in battle. If I stand against the Varos, I may stand alone. Aaron shook his head. Not alone. For even one human beside you is not nothing. Her gaze lingered on him, sharp yet thoughtful. She turned her eyes away and rose to her full height, towering above him. Her voice echoed through the hall, carrying a mix of challenge and resolve. Then we shall see, human. When the storm arrives, we shall see if your belief is more than words. Aaron stood as well, bowing his head. We will. The queen walked past him, her tall figure casting long shadows across the floor. Yet her steps carried a different weight than before. The doubt was still there, but something new stirred beneath it. Something steadier. As Aaron left the hall that night, he thought of her words. He thought of the Varos, the rival species gathering strength beyond the borders, and of the queen who carried the burden of her people's doubt. And he thought of the fire he had seen flicker in her eyes, fragile but alive. He knew the storm was coming. But he also knew that storms could reveal strength that calm skies never could. The crystal sky of Zyra's world glowed faintly as the suns lowered beyond the horizon. The alien queen stood upon her high balcony, looking over her kingdom. Her people were restless. Whispers carried through the stone halls. Some wondered if she was still strong enough to rule. Others feared the arrival of a new enemy. For the first time in many years, Zyra felt a shadow pressing down on her heart. Far across the fields, word had spread that a rival warlord was gathering an army. His name was Korath, and he was feared among the stars for his cruelty and hunger for power. He had already taken 3 smaller kingdoms, and now his eyes were fixed on Zyra's throne. Her advisors whispered that Korath was unstoppable. Even her loyal generals seemed uneasy. Inside the throne room, the heavy silence grew deeper with every passing hour. Zyra entered with her crown resting upon her scaled head, but her steps felt heavier than ever before. Her court lowered their eyes. Some bowed, but their movements carried doubt, not respect. Ryan, the lone human, stood by her side. Though small compared to the towering warriors in the court, he stood straight, his calm gaze moving across the hall. He noticed the doubt in their eyes, the fear in their voices, and the weight on Zyra's shoulders. The queen raised her voice. "My people, Korath rises against us. He seeks to bring chains to our world. Do you stand with me?" There was no thunder of cheers, no roar of loyalty. Only a few voices answered with weak shouts. The rest remained silent. Zyra's heart sank. She turned and walked back to her chamber. The crown on her head felt like iron. For years she had ruled with strength, but now she wondered if her people would abandon her when she needed them most. Later that night, she stood alone in the crystal garden. The glowing leaves cast silver light upon her face. She whispered to herself, "Perhaps they are right. Perhaps Korath will take this throne. Perhaps I was never meant to rule." A soft step approached behind her. Ryan had followed quietly. He spoke with calm words. "Do not let their fear poison you. You are their queen." Zyra turned sharply. "You do not understand, human. They doubt me. They always have. Even when I was young, they did not call me worthy. They said I was too different, too ugly, too harsh. They obeyed because they feared, not because they loved. Now a stronger warlord rises, and I feel them slipping away." Ryan walked closer. His voice remained steady. "I understand more than you think. On Earth, there were times when humans faced enemies greater than themselves. Stronger, faster, sharper. But we learned something important. Power is not always about size. It is not always about strength. Sometimes it is about standing when all others kneel. Sometimes it is about showing courage when fear fills the air." Zyra lowered her gaze. The glow of the garden reflected in her dark eyes. "But how can courage save us from Korath's army? His blades are sharp, his soldiers are many." Ryan smiled faintly. "Courage is not only a shield. It is fire. When one stands without fear, others begin to rise. Your people do not need another chain. They need hope. And you can give it to them." For a long moment, Zyra remained silent. She felt the old pain in her chest, the weight of years where she had been called monstrous. But beside her, this small human stood without trembling. He had faced beasts greater than him and had not broken. The next day, the court gathered again. The air was heavy, filled with uncertainty. Koratha's army had been seen on the horizon, a black wave moving closer to the crystal fields. The advisors murmured among themselves, speaking of surrender, or escape. Zyra walked into the hall with Ryan at her side. She stood tall, her scales catching the light. Though her heart still carried fear, her voice rose strong. "My people, I hear your whispers. I see your doubt. You fear Korath. You wonder if I can still lead you. You wonder if you should bend the knee to him. But I say this, no ruler who brings chains is worthy of your loyalty. No warlord who feeds on fear is worthy of your trust. If I am to fall, I will fall fighting for this land, not kneeling to an enemy." The hall grew silent. Her words struck through the doubts like a blade through mist. Ryan stepped forward. All eyes turned to the small figure of the human. His voice was steady, carrying through the chamber. "I have seen many rulers, many battles. I have seen humans stand against storms that should have broken them. Do not look at Korath and see his size. Do not look at his army and see their number. Look at your queen. She stands unbroken. She does not bend. If one human can stand in this hall without fear, then surely an entire people can rise together. If you follow her, you will not walk as slaves. You will walk as free." The alien warriors stared at him in silence. For a moment, no one moved. Then one soldier struck his chest with a fist and shouted, "For the Queen!" Another followed, and then another. Soon the hall echoed with a chant, deep and thunderous, shaking the walls. Zyra felt her chest tighten. For the first time, she saw something different in their eyes. Not fear. Not duty. But faith. Outside the crystal towers, the drums of Koratha's army thundered across the fields. The enemy banners rose high, black against the glowing rivers. But within the throne city, a new fire had been lit. The people rallied, gathering weapons, raising shields, and preparing for war. That night, Zyra stood with Ryan upon the walls. The enemy fires burned in the distance, countless and bright. The queen's hand tightened upon the rail. She whispered, "The storm is here." Ryan looked at her with calm eyes. "Then we will meet it together." For the first time, Zyra did not feel alone. The shadow was still heavy, but within her burned a new flame. The battle was coming, and she would not face it as a monster, nor as a ruler of fear, but as a leader her people could truly follow. The morning came with the sound of war drums. Koratha's army filled the horizon like a dark sea. Their banners rose high, black and red, while their warriors marched with heavy steps that shook the earth. From the walls of the crystal city, Zyra and her people watched. Fear still whispered in their hearts, but it no longer ruled them. Zyra stood in her armor of shining scales, her crown set firmly upon her head. She held a spear longer than Ryan's height, the weapon glowing faintly with the light of her world. Beside her stood the human, small compared to the towering warriors, yet unshaken. He carried no grand weapon, only a blade of alien steel he had forged with the help of the queen's smiths. The gates opened. Zyra marched out, leading her army into the fields of crystal grass. The sun cast its light across both armies, making the field blaze with color. Korath himself rode forward on a beast covered with black armor. His horns curved high above his head, and his voice thundered across the plain. "Zyra, he shouted, "Your time is over. Your throne belongs to me. Surrender, and perhaps I will spare some of your people." Zyra stepped forward, her spear raised. Her voice was steady, clear as glass. "You will not take my throne, Korath. My people will never kneel to chains. If you want this crown, you must tear it from me with your own hands." Her army roared in answer, the chant of "For the Queen" shaking the ground. Ryan's heart swelled as he heard it. Only days ago, these same voices had whispered doubt, but now they rose in unity. The battle began. The two armies clashed in the fields. Blades rang, shields broke, and the crystal grass was torn beneath the fury of war. Korath's soldiers were larger and stronger, but Zyra's warriors fought with new fire. Ryan moved among them, guiding, shouting, pulling soldiers back into formation when fear threatened to scatter them. He fought not with great strength, but with quick thinking and sharp eyes. At the center of the battle, Zyra met Korath. Their weapons struck like thunder. Her spear clashed against his heavy axe, sparks flying with every blow. Korath laughed with cruel pride. "You are strong, Zyra, but you fight alone. Your people follow only because they fear you." Zyra pushed against him, her voice rising above the clash. "No. They follow because they choose to. They fight because they believe." Her words were not only for him. They carried across the battlefield, lifting her warriors' hearts. Ryan saw the change. Where fear might have broken them before, now courage bound them together. The duel raged on. Korath struck hard, driving Zyra back. His axe cut into the ground, breaking stone and soil. For a moment it seemed he might overpower her. Then Ryan ran forward, throwing himself between the two giants. He raised his small blade, blocking one of Korath's strikes just long enough for Zyra to rise again. Korath laughed at the human. "A fragile creature dares to stand before me." Ryan's voice was calm, even in the face of the towering warlord. "Fragile does not mean weak." Before Korath could strike him down, Zyra's spear flashed. She drove it forward with all her strength, striking through Korath's chest. His roar filled the sky as he staggered back, his axe falling from his hand. The great warlord fell to the ground, the earth trembling beneath his weight. For a heartbeat, silence covered the battlefield. Then Zyra raised her spear high and shouted, "For freedom!" Her army roared with her, and Korath's soldiers broke. Without their leader, they scattered across the fields, fleeing into the distance. The battle was won. Zyra stood tall, her chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. Around her, her people cheered her name. They no longer bowed out of fear but out of love and respect. For the first time in her life, she felt the weight of the crown grow lighter instead of heavier. Ryan walked to her side, his blade still in his hand. He was tired, his body aching, but his smile was calm. Zyra looked at him for a long moment. Then she spoke softly, so only he could hear. "Why call me beautiful, human? I am scarred, scaled, and fierce. I was called monstrous since birth. Even now, I see a creature in the mirror that is not fair or gentle. Why do you still smile at me?" Ryan sheathed his blade. His eyes met hers without fear, without hesitation. Because beauty is not about what the eyes see. It is about what the heart feels. You stood when others would fall. You gave your people courage when they were ready to surrender. You fought not for power, but for them. That is beauty. That is why I smile. Zyra felt a warmth spread through her chest, a warmth she had never known. The cheers of her people rose behind her, but in that moment the world seemed quiet. She did not feel ugly. She did not feel monstrous. She felt seen. She lowered her head slightly, her voice gentle. Then perhaps, human, you have given me a gift greater than victory. You have given me myself. Ryan simply smiled again, the same calm, steady smile he had shown from the first day they met. And Zyra, the alien queen once feared and doubted, finally smiled back. The sun set beyond the horizon, painting the sky in fire and gold. The crystal fields shimmered with the glow of victory. For the first time, Zyra's world felt not like a cage of duty, but a home filled with hope.